The Shard of Anubis, Part 1. Chapter 1, A Letter from Abydos. The sands had barely settled after the tomb of Meneptah. Dr. Amelia Carter stood at the edge of a sun-drenched excavation site, wind sweeping through her hair, eyes fixed on the horizon. The past weeks had been a blur of silence, dreams she couldn't explain, and the unsettling sensation that something had followed her back from the tomb, not physically, but like a whisper behind her every thought. Amenhotep had gone quiet too. Not in words, he was ever the charming, sharp-eyed guardian of forgotten truths, but in spirit. Since awakening in that chamber and revealing his ancient past, something had changed in him. He spent hours staring at the night sky, murmuring prayers in a language even Amelia's encyclopedic mind struggled to translate. And now, just as the team had started to rest, a letter arrived. Not by post. Not by courier. But delivered directly to Amelia's tent, sealed in black wax bearing the eye of Anubis. She sat at her desk, the flap of the canvas tent rustling gently. Outside, the desert shimmered. Inside, the air seemed to thicken as she broke the seal. The parchment was old, centuries older than the ink that scrawled across it. The message was brief, but it chilled her to the bone. Dr. Carter. The eye sees you. The dead remember. Come to Abydos. Bring no one but the one who walks between. The shard must not rise. A friend of the threshold. She read it twice. Then again. Her pulse quickened. The one who walks between, she whispered. Her eyes darted to Amenhotep. He stood just outside, talking to Tariq and Professor Dunmore, but the moment her gaze landed on him, he looked back, like he'd felt the letter in her hand. That night, the team gathered around the fire. I need to go to Abydos, Amelia announced. Alone? No, said Tariq, the team's engineer, immediately. That's madness. After Meneptah, we all agreed. This isn't about another tomb, Amelia interrupted. It's about a relic tied to Anubis. Someone knew exactly where I was and how to find me without anyone seeing. That's not a threat. That's a message. Professor Dunmore, weathered and wise, leaned forward. Abydos is sacred, he said quietly. Burial ground of kings and gods. And if you're being summoned there, someone believes you're part of something older than even Meneptah. Amenhotep stood slowly, gaze distant. The eye sees you, he repeated from the letter. That is not a metaphor. That is a warning. You know what this is, Amelia said. He nodded. The Shard of Anubis. A fragment of the veil. A piece of power that binds the world of the living to the path of the dead. So it's real? It is more than real, he said. It's alive. They left before dawn. Just the two of them. The others protested, of course, but Amelia knew this was how it had to be. Some journeys didn't begin in books or maps, they called you. This was one of those. As the jeep rattled over the dunes toward Abydos, the wind picked up. From somewhere deep in the desert, a low hum began to rise, like voices buried beneath centuries of sand. And in her satchel, next to her notebook and field tools, the black wax seal from the letter had begun to melt. Not from heat. But from something watching. Chapter 2, The Temple Beneath the Sand. The sun hung low over Abydos, casting long shadows across the sacred necropolis. Once a royal burial ground and spiritual nexus for ancient Egypt, Abydos now slumbered beneath silence. The few tourists that ever made it out here stuck to the main temple ruins, the magnificent temple of Seti I, the Osirian. But Amelia and Amenhotep were not here for what was known. They followed a mapless trail, drawn only in whispers and the instinct of one who walked between worlds. Their jeep crawled to a stop at the edge of a crumbling wadi. Ancient tomb markers jutted from the sand like the ribs of a dead titan. The landscape shifted subtly here, the dunes less willing to move, the silence deeper. Amelia stepped out, notebook in hand, sketching quickly. "We're not far from the original Osirian axis," she murmured. "But this isn't aligned with any royal tomb I've studied." "Because it predates them all," Amenhotep replied. "This is not a temple built for gods. It is a temple built by one." She turned to him. "You mean Anubis?" "Not the god," he said. "The guardian. The gatekeeper. The one who watched long before Horus ruled the sky." Amenhotep led the way, stepping lightly as if the desert remembered him, and perhaps it did. The sand shifted around their feet, uncovering faint glyphs, symbols Amelia didn't recognize. A jackal. A hollow sun. A door with no frame. At the base of a shallow cliff, mostly hidden by rockfall and erosion, they found it. A cracked archway, half buried, its stonework different from any temple Amelia had ever seen. The craftsmanship was finer, the cuts smoother, but worn by more time than the pharaohs had ruled combined. No hieroglyphs. No cartouches. Just a single carving above the entrance. The eye. Closed. Amelia brushed her fingers across it. The stone was warm, too warm. They descended into the earth. The passage led deep beneath the sand, stone steps slick with condensation. The air grew cool and strangely sweet, like aged incense and forgotten spices. Their flashlights flickered, more than once. "You feel that?" Amelia asked. "This place remembers us," Amenhotep said simply. They reached the bottom of the stairwell and stepped into a vast chamber. Amelia froze. The space opened like a great underground cathedral. Dozens of obsidian pillars rose toward a vaulted ceiling painted with constellations long since lost from the night sky. The walls shimmered faintly, not with torchlight, but with phosphorescent script, glowing a pale blue, pulsing like breath. And at the far end of the hall stood a raised dais. Upon it, a sarcophagus, carved from black stone, flanked by two seated jackal statues. "This isn't a burial site," Amelia said in awe. "It's an interface. A threshold," Amenhotep said. "Between memory and silence." They stepped toward the dais, their movements slow, reverent. As Amelia approached the sarcophagus, something in her chest pulled tight, like she was being drawn forward, like part of her had been waiting here all along. She brushed her hand across the lid. Instantly, a pulse of energy surged through the chamber. The jackal statue's eyes glowed. The phosphorescent script flashed. And from the walls, a low, ancient chant began to echo. Then, the stone beneath the dais split open. A hidden staircase revealed itself, spiraling downward, deeper into the dark. "We're being invited in," Amelia whispered. Amenhotep nodded, face grim. "Or tested." As they stood at the top of the new stairway, Amelia took one last look at the sarcophagus. She could have sworn she saw something shift behind the stone of the jackal's eye. Not just watching. Weighing. She turned to Amenhotep. "Let's go." And together, they stepped deeper into the shadows, toward a secret not meant for the living. Chapter 3, The Guardian's Path. The stairwell spiraled downward into a darkness that seemed to breathe. Dr. Amelia Carter's boots echoed against smooth stone, her flashlight struggling to pierce the thick, humid air. Behind her, Amenhotep descended in steady silence, his eyes glowing faintly in the shadows, not from torchlight, but from something older. As they moved deeper, the stone walls around them changed. The sandstone gave way to obsidian, smooth and polished, as though it had been poured and shaped by fire. Strange symbols, not hieroglyphs, but marks carved by memory itself, flashed faintly as they passed. They weren't written with language. They were felt. And each step brought a whisper. A flicker. Like the tunnel remembered every soul that had ever dared walk it. "This doesn't feel like a tomb," Amelia whispered. "It's not," Amenhotep replied. "This is the Guardian's path. Only the worthy may pass." "And who decides that?" "The path itself." After what felt like an hour, the stairway ended abruptly. Before them stood a vast stone door, carved with the shape of a jackal's head and sealed by 4 circular locks, each embedded with a different element: fire, water, air, and earth. Amelia approached the first lock, the one inscribed with flame. The moment her hand touched it, the chamber around her vanished. She was alone, standing in a vast burning field. Fire raged across an endless horizon. In the center stood a figure, herself, bound and screaming. A voice boomed from the fire. "Will you burn to uncover the truth?" She stepped forward. The flames licked at her skin. Her body trembled. But she pressed on. "Yes," she said. "If that's the price." She reached her other self, and as she touched her, the fire vanished. She stood once more in front of the door. The fire lock clicked and turned green. Amenhotep stepped forward to the second, water. The air grew cold. The chamber flooded in illusion. Drowning. Screaming. He faced not himself, but the souls he had failed. Those who died long ago. Those whose memories haunted his immortal silence. And he stood tall. "I remember you," he said. "And I carry you still." The water fell away. The second lock turned green. The third and fourth tests came swiftly. Air, where Amelia walked through a storm of voices from the dead, resisting the pull of madness and confusion. Earth, where Amenhotep stood against the crumbling memory of Egypt itself, refusing to be buried beneath the weight of his guilt. When the final lock turned, the jackal's eyes flared with blue flame. The door opened. Inside was a long corridor, walls lined with murals that moved as they walked. Scenes played out: the weighing of hearts, the burial of kings, the binding of a great black shard beneath a temple of bones. Amelia stopped in front of one image. It showed a man holding a relic in the shape of a curved fang, obsidian black, pulsing with unnatural light. "Is that the shard?" she asked. Amenhotep nodded. "That is only a part of it. There were 3. One for memory. One for spirit. And one for command." "And this place," she asked. "Is it guarding the shard, or hiding it?" He looked at the final mural. It showed a guardian, a jackal-headed being not like Anubis, but twisted, corrupted. Its mouth was open wide, and from within spilled shadows that took the form of priests, kings, and monsters alike. "This place is a test," Amenhotep said grimly. "To hold the shard, you must pass through what it reveals. Not just secrets." He turned to her. "But your truth." At the far end of the corridor, a massive door now stood open, revealing a chamber of total darkness. No light. No floor. Just void. A step forward, and you fall into it. Amelia took a breath. "Well. We've come this far." Amenhotep offered a faint smile. No turning back now. Together, they stepped into the dark. Chapter 4: The Mouth of Shadows. Darkness had a texture. It clung to their skin like silk soaked in memory, heavy and cool, whispering as it shifted around them. Amelia's flashlight sputtered and died the moment they crossed the threshold. Even Amenhotep's eyes, ever glowing with divine memory, flickered uncertainly. "This isn't darkness," Amelia said, her voice hushed. "It's awareness." "It's the mouth of shadows," Amenhotep whispered. "The chamber between worlds." Between? Between remembering and forgetting. Between life and what follows. They walked blindly, the ground somehow solid but unseen. There was no echo, no breeze, no sense of direction. Only an unsettling hum, low, rhythmic, like a heartbeat muffled by stone. And then came the voices. First soft. Then louder. You left me behind. You should have burned the scroll. Your curiosity was never innocent. He's not telling you everything. They came from all directions. From within her. Suddenly, light flared, not from her hand, but from the air itself. A vision bloomed in front of Amelia, herself, sitting at Oxford, young and bright-eyed, poring over texts. She saw herself stealing an unregistered scroll from a private collection, her first step down a path of secrets. Then the scene changed. She saw the tomb of Meneptah. Her hand on the cursed seal. And Amenhotep, awakening beneath a shroud of dust, whispering her name like he'd known it before she was born. This place feeds on truth, Amelia said, stepping back. It's showing me what I carry. The vision shattered into ash. Amenhotep dropped to one knee. They're pulling from my past too. Visions swirled around him, temples burning, priests screaming his name, shadows stretching from under the throne of a long-forgotten pharaoh. A woman's voice, soft and kind, you swore you'd protect us. His hands trembled. Amelia touched his shoulder. You don't have to face it alone. That's the trick, he said, voice strained. You do. The floor shifted beneath them. The void rippled, and from it rose a statue, 10 feet tall, obsidian and gold, shaped like a jackal. But unlike the clean lines of Anubis, this one was warped, its eyes hollow, its teeth jagged, its chest cracked and leaking black mist. And then, it moved. Its head tilted. The mist poured from its mouth like smoke from a furnace. When it spoke, it didn't use words. It used memory. Suddenly, Amelia saw her father's face, stern, cold, pushing her away from the study as a child. She saw her first expedition, her own fear hidden behind bravado. She saw Amenhotep, lying in the tomb, but in this version, she left him behind. No, she whispered. That's not how it happened. The jackal statue whispered back, not aloud, but in her bones. But you thought about it. Amenhotep stepped forward. He raised his hand. You are not Anubis. You are a fracture. A forgotten guardian without balance. The jackal being hissed, its eyes flaring blue, then black. Let her pass, he growled. Only when she offers her truth, the shadow replied. One truth. Spoken aloud. Amelia's pulse thundered. The air pulsed. And then, softly, she said. I'm afraid that when I die, no one will remember me as anything more than a thief of gods. The air shifted. The statue froze. And then slowly, it bowed its head. The shadows parted. A stairway of faintly glowing stone appeared ahead, descending again into the earth. This time the walls shimmered with moving script, ancient and foreign, glyphs that rearranged themselves as she passed. At the bottom of the stairs was a door made of bone and bronze. On it was carved a warning. Beyond here, the dead speak back. Amelia reached for the handle. Ready? She asked. Amenhotep nodded. We have to be. And together, they stepped through, into a world where memory no longer obeyed the living. Chapter 5, The Echo Vault. The moment the door of bone and bronze closed behind them, the silence shifted. It wasn't the hush of airless tunnels or the respectful quiet of a tomb. This was a silence that had been listening for centuries, and now, it was ready to speak. Amelia and Amenhotep stood at the threshold of a colossal chamber, round as the inside of a great drum. The walls rose high into a domed ceiling encrusted with black crystal, each shard flickering faintly with ghost light. The room pulsed with voices. Not whispers, echoes. Fragments of conversations, prayers, cries for help, laughter, rage, secrets. They drifted through the space like dust motes caught in moonlight. Some were loud and clear, others brushed past the ear like a half-forgotten dream. "What is this place?" Amelia whispered. Amenhotep stepped carefully forward, eyes locked on the ceiling. "This is the Echo Vault," he said. "A repository of all spoken memory in this place. Words that touched these stones, never truly left. So it's alive?" "No," he said. "It's remembering." As they walked deeper into the vault, the chamber responded. Crystals glowed brighter. The voices sharpened. One whisper rang especially clear. "Dr. Amelia Carter." She froze. It wasn't imagined. It wasn't ancient. It was her name, spoken in a voice that sounded disturbingly like Tariq. "That's not possible," she said, spinning toward the sound. But the chamber was empty, just walls, shadow, and drifting light. Then came another voice. "You're too late, you should have stayed buried." That one was Professor Dunmore. Then her own voice, whispering. "We never should have opened the tomb." "They're alive," Amelia breathed. "Somehow, this vault is pulling in sound from now, from the others." Amenhotep nodded grimly. "Then the vault is no longer just recording. It's feeding. And if that's true, something has awakened." Suddenly, a section of the far wall shimmered and shifted, revealing an archway sealed with 3 vertical stone bars. Above it, a massive obsidian panel lit up, revealing 3 sentences etched in gold. 1. Only the speaker of truth may enter. 2. Only the one who remembers what was never written may pass. 3. Only the one who knows their own silence may return. Below each line, a glyph lock pulsed, waiting for input. Amelia approached the first. She placed her hand on it, and immediately, the vault responded. The entire chamber darkened, save for a single floating memory. It hovered between them like a glowing orb. Inside, a scene from her childhood. She was arguing with her father, insisting she wanted to be an explorer, not a historian. "Tell the truth," said a voice from the vault. "Not what you said. What you meant." Amelia's throat tightened. "I wasn't just defiant," she whispered. "I was afraid. I thought, if I didn't find something worth remembering, I'd be forgotten." The glyph lock glowed, and the first bar slid away. Amenhotep stepped to the second. The vault produced a single glowing glyph, not from hieroglyphs, not demotic, not even the language of the pharaohs, but pre-dynastic script. He stared at it, jaw clenched. "I remember this," he said. "This was never written. This was spoken in the House of Rebirth, when I took the vow to serve the first temple." "What does it mean?" Amelia asked. He translated slowly. "It means, I am the gate, and I will never close my eyes again." The glyph turned gold. The second bar dropped. The third was blank. No text. No image. Only silence. The vault did not speak. Amelia looked at Amenhotep. "It's me," she said. "I think I have to." She closed her eyes. And she said nothing. She simply stood there, in silence, letting the vault feel her presence, not as a voice, but as a listener. The third glyph flared. The final bar fell. The archway opened. Inside was a much smaller chamber, barely lit. In its center stood a pedestal, and atop it, resting inside a shallow dish of silver dust, was a shard of obsidian no longer than a hand. It pulsed faintly. A thin trail of black smoke rose from it and vanished into the air. Amelia stepped forward slowly. The Shard of Anubis, she breathed. But as her fingers brushed the edge of the pedestal, the dust inside rippled. And something moved behind her. A figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked in black and gold, face covered in a jackal mask made of bone. Its voice was ancient. Unmistakably alive. "Step back, Dr. Carter," it said. "The shard does not belong to you." Chapter 6, The Bone-Masked Stranger. The figure stood utterly still, framed by the soft, smoky glow of the Shard of Anubis. Its jackal-shaped mask, carved from yellowed bone, stared without expression, and its robes flowed with a pattern that shimmered like a mirage, shifting hieroglyphs, unreadable and constantly in motion. For a moment, no one spoke. The vault itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, "I said step back," the stranger repeated, voice calm but edged with command. "That artifact is not for mortal hands." Amelia straightened, her fingers still hovering inches from the shard. "Then why did it call to me?" "Because it remembers you," the stranger replied. "But memory does not equal right." Amenhotep stepped forward, gaze sharp. "You wear the seal of the Order of the Threshold." The figure tilted its head. "So, you remember." "I remember everything," Amenhotep said. "Including your oath. You swore to protect the world from the veil. Not to hoard its power." The masked stranger's tone shifted, still even, but now laced with ancient sorrow. "You were one of us once, Amenhotep. Before you were cursed. Before you disappeared." "I didn't disappear," he replied. "I was buried." Amelia's eyes darted between them. "You know each other?" "He knew who I was," Amenhotep corrected. "But not what I've become." The stranger took a slow step forward. "You walk between life and death. You are tied to the old breath. That makes you dangerous." "We all are," Amelia said quietly. "But we didn't come here to steal the shard. We came because someone is trying to use it." "Use it?" the stranger said sharply. "The shard isn't a weapon. It's a breach. A fragment of the veil between the mortal and the eternal. If awakened, it draws everything through it." He turned toward the pedestal, reverence in every movement. "The shard you see is one of three. Long ago, they were used together in a ritual meant to bridge both realms. Instead, they tore a wound across time. It took generations to bind them apart. And even longer to erase them from history." The stranger knelt beside the pedestal and poured a pinch of silver dust across the shard. It flared dimly, and from the smoke above it rose a vision, a swirling silhouette of a massive gate, half open, bleeding shadows across a stone altar. In front of it stood three figures in ceremonial robes, each holding a curved obsidian shard. And behind them, a fourth figure. Unseen. Watching. "This is what we sealed," the stranger said. "And what someone is trying to unseal again." "Who?" Amelia asked. The masked figure stood. "We don't know. Only that the other shards are stirring. One has already been unearthed. South of Luxor." Amelia exchanged a look with Amenhotep. "We have to stop them." The stranger paused. "Then you'll need to take it." "The shard." "You just told us it's dangerous," Amelia replied. "It is," he said. "But if the other shards awaken, and you don't hold this one, the veil will split wide. And what's been buried in the dark will not return alone." He stepped aside. "Take it. But know this, once you touch it, it will remember you forever. It will mark you. And those who seek it, will be able to find you." Amelia hesitated only a moment. Then she reached out and placed her hand on the shard. It was cold at first, but then it burned, not on her skin, but in her mind. A flash of images, black wings, a sunless corridor, a city made of bones. And one word, whispered like breath in her ear. Amenthes. She gasped and stumbled back. Amenhotep caught her. Are you all right? I saw something, she said, breathing hard. Somewhere. The shard now glowed softly, as if recognizing its new bearer. The masked stranger nodded. Then your path is set. You must reach the second shard before they do. The order will buy you time. Amelia looked at him. What's your name? A pause. Then. Sacker. You'll help us? No. I'll help the balance. That means sometimes helping you. As Amelia and Amenhotep turned to leave the vault, shards safely stored in a sealed case, the voices in the crystal above whispered again, no longer random echoes, but names. Dozens of names. And hers was one of them. Dr. Amelia Carter. She holds the veil. The gate is watching. As the doors closed behind them and the vault faded into silence once more, Amelia felt something new, not fear, not even awe. But a weight. The kind of weight that meant something in the world had changed. And something on the other side had noticed. Chapter 7, Luxor's Secret. Luxor, City of Kings. By daylight, it shimmered with life and legacy. Tourists flocked to the avenue of sphinxes, locals bartered in the souks, and boatmen called from the Nile as feluccas drifted by like silent ghosts. But beneath the surface, beneath the tombs, beneath the temples, something had shifted. Dr. Amelia Carter felt it the moment their train rolled into the station. It's too quiet, she murmured, scanning the streets beyond the platform. Luxor is never truly quiet, said Amenhotep, stepping beside her. Unless it's listening. They checked into a modest hotel near the edge of town, away from the crowded tourist districts. Amelia knew better than to draw attention. Especially now, with the Shard of Anubis sealed in her satchel, warded with 3 layers of protective sigils. We go to the tomb district tonight, she said as she paced the room, unrolling a large map of Luxor's necropolis. Sacker said the second shard had been unearthed somewhere beneath Luxor, but not which tomb. If it's active, we should feel a signature. Or the Guardians will, Amenhotep said. Guardians? He nodded. The shards do not rest alone. They attract things. Old things. Creatures, shaped from the veil itself. Most are blind. But some see. That night, under cover of darkness, they descended into the Valley of the Nobles, guided not by official maps, but by Amenhotep's memory and Amelia's intuition. They avoided guards, followed sand-choked paths behind unmarked tombs, and at last reached a collapsed shaft Amelia had once dismissed as a structural failure. This wasn't a collapse, she said, kneeling by the rubble. This was a seal. Which means something broke it open, Amenhotep added. Using climbing ropes and careful footing, they lowered themselves through the rubble into the earth. The air changed immediately, dry, cold, and electric. The chamber beneath the shaft was not listed in any official excavation. It opened into a vast subterranean hall, lined with black pillars that slanted at impossible angles. The walls pulsed faintly, not with color, but with pressure, as if the stone was holding something in. And there, in the center, lay the unmistakable outline of a sarcophagus. But it had been smashed open from the inside. Scattered around it were fragments of obsidian glass, etched with unfamiliar markings. Not hieroglyphs. But vein-like channels, almost alive. And nearby, lying half-buried in the dust, was a broken bone mask. Amelia knelt. Another guardian. Too late, Amenhotep said, grim. It's already been taken. She stood slowly. Then we're not just racing time anymore. No, he said. We're hunting. As they turned to leave, the far wall of the chamber cracked. A long fissure split the stone, and from it seeped a thin mist, not vapor, not air, but something older. Then came the sound. A dry, inhuman clicking, like bones tapping against stone. And then, from the shadows, a shape emerged. Tall. Twisted. Wrapped in linen that moved like breath. Its face was hidden, but a single golden eye burned where its head should be. It didn't attack. It simply stared. And then, with a voice like gravel and wind, it spoke in ancient Egyptian. You carry the key. Give it, and be remembered. Amenhotep stepped in front of Amelia. You are bound by the veil, he said. But you do not command it. The creature hissed. From the wall behind it, more shapes began to stir, 3, 4, 5, all wrapped in shrouds, golden eyes glowing faintly. Amelia grabbed the shard case, her fingers burning with heat as it pulsed. The guardians felt it. And now, they were coming. Run, she said. Agreed, Amenhotep muttered. They turned and sprinted toward the shaft. Behind them, the clicking grew louder. The air warped. Whispers filled the hall. The first guardian leapt after them, nearly silent, but Amenhotep whirled mid-run and blasted it with a flash of raw, searing energy from his palm. The creature howled, smoke curling from its chest. They can't be killed, he said. Only slowed. That's your version of good news? They reached the rope and scrambled upward as the walls cracked and howled, the tomb alive with sound and fury. Just as Amelia pulled herself clear of the shaft, she heard the guardians below let out a final, unified shriek. A word. A name. Amenthes. Back on the surface, gasping in the moonlight, Amelia collapsed against a boulder, clutching the shard case. They know I have it now. Amenhotep nodded. They knew the moment you touched it. And now, they'll never stop. She looked toward the distant lights of Luxor. Then let's not give them the chance. We find the last shard before they do. Chapter 8, The Map of the Moon God. Morning broke over Luxor in a soft, golden hush. But beneath that beauty, tension lingered. Amelia Carter stood on the balcony of their hotel room, staring across the rooftops toward the Temple of Khonsu, a smaller, often overlooked corner of the Karnak complex, dedicated to the moon god and keeper of time. You really think the last shard is tied to the temple? She asked, arms crossed, the desert breeze tugging at her scarf. Amenhotep stood beside her, his gaze sharp and distant. The veil is a boundary, he said. It doesn't only touch death, it wraps through time, space, even memory. The Temple of Khonsu wasn't just a sanctuary. It was a celestial vault. A map not of where, but of when. Amelia raised a brow. We're looking for a shard, and we need a calendar. We're not looking for its location, Amenhotep said. We're looking for the moment it fell through the veil. That afternoon, under the guise of academic research, Amelia and Amenhotep slipped into the Karnak complex. Crowds bustled near the grand halls, but the path to Khonsu's temple was quiet, sunlit, cool, nearly forgotten. Just the way they needed it. They passed through its towering pylons, down narrow corridors lined with worn depictions of lunar rites and offerings. The hieroglyphs here shimmered faintly in places, silver-gilded, strange under sunlight. Then they reached the inner sanctuary. It was small. Quiet. Circular. A domed ceiling stretched above, painted with constellations not seen in the night sky for thousands of years. The floor was covered in slabs of polished basalt, each carved with a single glowing glyph. A narrow beam of sunlight slipped through a hole in the ceiling, casting a beam directly on the center glyph, a crescent moon with a spiral at its heart. Amenhotep knelt beside it. This is it, he said. The map of the moon god. It's a star map, Amelia said, crouching beside him. But it's not right. These constellations don't match current positions. Because they aren't current, he replied. They're positions of the sky at the moment each shard entered the world. He placed his hand over the central symbol. It pulsed beneath his palm. And then the air changed. The ceiling above them shimmered, and became transparent. A projection of the stars unfolded, aligning into place. Time turned backward. They watched as the constellations shifted, rotated, until they clicked into 3 distinct patterns. 3 alignments. 3 dates. Amenhotep gasped. This is not possible. What? The 3rd alignment, it matches a position not yet come. Amelia stared. You're saying, the last shard hasn't arrived yet? Not fully. He looked at her. It's trying to break through. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the temple. From behind them, the stone doors of the sanctuary slammed shut. Torches lining the walls flared to life. And a figure stepped forward from the shadows at the edge of the dome, cloaked in white linen, gold-trimmed, face veiled by silk. You were not invited here, she said softly. More figures emerged behind her. 6 acolytes of the priesthood of Khonsu, their silver amulets glinting with lunar light. Amelia slowly stood, hands raised. We didn't mean disrespect. You activated the vault, the woman replied. You disturbed the sleeping sky. We're trying to stop something, Amelia said. The veil is tearing. The shards. We know of the shards, the priestess interrupted. Amelia blinked. You do? We have guarded this temple since before the stars named themselves, the priestess said. And we have sworn to protect the map from all who would use it to awaken the forgotten. We're trying to stop the forgotten, Amelia insisted. The priestess studied her for a long time. Then looked at Amenhotep. Her voice turned sharp. You are marked. You walk between breath and shadow. By necessity, Amenhotep replied. The priestess walked slowly toward the center of the chamber, looking up at the sky map. Then let it be by test. She clapped her hands once. The star map flickered. And then the floor opened beneath Amelia's feet. She fell into blackness. Wind roared in her ears. And then, silence. She hit soft ground, sand, cool and fine. She stood in a reflection of the temple above, but twisted, as if seen through dark water. The stars above were dimmed. The glyphs on the walls were reversed. And across from her stood herself. Not aged. Not scarred. But blank, as if she had never made any choices, never taken risks, never crossed any forbidden line. The other Amelia spoke. You could still leave it all behind. Be remembered as a scholar. A hero. Not a shadow chaser. I didn't come for memory, Amelia whispered. Then what? Amelia took a breath. To know. Even if it costs me everything. The other Amelia blinked. Then smiled. And faded. She stood alone. The darkness lifted. And suddenly she was back in the sanctuary, Amenhotep beside her, the priesthood watching. The priestess knelt. The map is yours to interpret. But be warned, the sky watches those who trespass against time. Later, outside the temple, Amelia opened her notebook and wrote the 3rd alignment's position. Coordinates, she said. Not of geography, but of time. This one leads us to Amenthes. Amenhotep looked up, his expression grave. Then our next step is through the veil itself. Chapter 9, Amenthes. The name Amenthes had only ever appeared in fragments, whispered in lost funerary texts, etched faintly into walls later erased by priest-kings, and mentioned once in a forbidden scroll that had vanished after Amelia cited it in a lecture. The corridor between life and afterlife, she recalled aloud. Not quite the Duat. Not quite the world of the dead. It is the place between, said Amenhotep, adjusting the ceremonial wrap over his shoulders. Where the soul waits, or forgets. They stood now in the shadow of a forgotten temple, nestled between the cliffs near Deir el-Medina, a site no longer on modern maps, and known only to Amenhotep and those who had walked it long before memory was written down. Its facade was plain, buried under centuries of sand and secrecy. But carved into the stone lintel above the entrance was a single unmistakable phrase. Only those who carry truth may step into the shadow. The sun had just begun to dip behind the cliffs when they entered. Inside, the air was strangely heavy, as if the atmosphere itself clung to their bodies. Amelia's flashlight dimmed to a glow, then extinguished entirely. The walls lit themselves. Symbols moved across the stone, flowing like water, drawing them forward. No torches. No scent of dust or decay. Just silence. And then, a door. Or rather, a mirror, shaped like a doorway, tall, oval, framed in dark gold, and filled with what looked like liquid obsidian. Amelia stepped toward it. This is the veil, Amenhotep said. This is Amenthes. And beyond it? Truth. Or madness. Same thing, most days. She took his hand. Ready? You were born for this. And together, they stepped through. They didn't walk into Amenthes. They fell. Not physically, but inward. Pulled through the mirror, through their own reflections, through the things they'd chosen to forget. For a moment, Amelia couldn't see her hands. Couldn't hear Amenhotep's voice. All she could see were memories, fractured, looping. Her mother's face, as she stood at her grave, too young. The thrill of her first tomb discovery. The look of horror on Tarek's face when she chose to go deeper into Meneptah's crypt. A shadowy figure watching her from the end of a hallway she'd never entered. Then, stillness. She opened her eyes. She was standing in a vast black corridor, impossibly long. The floor was polished like glass. The walls shimmered with reflections, but not of herself. Of others. Souls. Figures walked the corridor, some solid, some flickering like flame. None acknowledged her. They simply moved past, wrapped in silence and grief and wonder. Then she saw him. Amenhotep. He turned to her, relief flashing across his face. You made it. I thought I was alone. Everyone thinks that in Amenthes, he said. It's the first lie the veil tells. Ahead, the corridor began to twist, revealing doorways, each etched with a different symbol. A lotus. A scarab. A sun. A jackal. Amelia approached the jackal door. The moment her fingers brushed it, the symbol pulsed. And the door opened itself. Inside was a circular chamber, empty, save for a stone basin at its center. In it, resting in a cradle of gold dust, was an obsidian shard. The final one. It was darker than the others. More solid. More awake. Amelia stepped forward, breath held. Is this it? It is, Amenhotep said softly. The final fragment. The shard of command. As she reached for it, the air rippled. A figure stepped into the room, cloaked, veiled, glowing faintly blue from within. You cannot take it, it said. Not without offering. What offering? Amelia asked. The figure raised its hand. A truth you have never spoken. A truth that can undo you. Amelia hesitated. Then, slowly, she said. Sometimes. I wish I had never started this life. That I could have just been ordinary. That I didn't have to carry all this weight. The figure stared. Then bowed. Then you are worthy. The shard lifted on its own. It hovered into Amelia's hands, glowing darkly, thrumming like a second heartbeat. As she took it, the chamber shook. The doors slammed shut. The corridor outside was gone. In its place stood a vast doorway, shaped in the outline of a jackal's mouth, carved in glowing script. And from behind it came a sound. Breathing. But not hers. Not Amenhotep's. Something had awakened. And it had been waiting. Chapter 10, The Jackal Gate. The Jackal Gate loomed like a living wound in the dark. Its colossal frame pulsed with faint golden light, carved not from stone, but from memories crystallized into matter, a material Amelia had never seen before. It shimmered between obsidian and bone, its surface slick with ancient breath. The open mouth of the jackal yawned wide, fangs curved inward like the bars of a divine prison. At its center swirled a storm of shadows, spinning clockwise, slow and infinite. Carved above the gate, barely visible, were 3 lines etched in hieroglyphs too old for Amelia's training. Speak not before the gate. Do not carry names through. If you step in, you leave as another. Amelia stood silent before it, the final shard of Anubis pulsing in her hands, cold and full of movement. The other 2 shards, secured in their protective case, vibrated in response. The air here was wrong. Thicker. It felt like wading through history that hadn't happened yet. This isn't just a passage, Amelia whispered. It's a choice. Amenhotep nodded solemnly. Once we cross this gate, we step into a place that doesn't obey the laws of life or death. Or time. Amenthus is merely the hallway. Beyond this, is the origin. Origin of what? Of the first curse. Of the first lie. The moment when gods learned they could be forgotten. A low hum resonated from the gate. Then, without warning, the 3 shards lifted into the air. They spun around one another, threads of silver and black lightning connecting them. The spiral of shadows in the center of the gate slowed, and reversed direction. It's opening, Amelia said, heart pounding. But why reverse the spin? It's not opening for us, Amenhotep said. It's opening for something else. Suddenly, a blast of cold air struck the chamber. The shadows at the gate thickened, and then parted. And from within, stepped a figure. Not a guardian. Not a priest. But a man. Wrapped in desert gray robes, bare feet, skin cracked like sun-baked clay. His face was veiled, but from beneath the wrappings, his eyes glowed silver, not with light, but with reflected knowledge. You have brought the 3 pieces together, he said, voice hollow but clear. You have undone the bindings sealed by flame, memory, and silence. Who are you? Amelia demanded. I am the one who left them, he replied. You created the shards? The man didn't answer. He simply stepped to the gate and raised one hand. The storm inside the jackal's mouth froze. There are 2 paths now, he said. One leads to knowledge. One leads to erasure. You must choose. And you must choose now. The ground beneath their feet cracked, ancient glyphs rising and glowing across the floor. 2 glowing circles appeared before the gate. One shimmered gold. The other, black as space. If you take the golden path, the man said, you will understand the veil. Its secrets. Its rules. You will witness what lies beyond. And the black one? Amelia asked. You will become part of it. Forever? Not forever, he said. But long enough to lose yourself. Amenhotep stepped forward. There is no understanding without cost. We know that. Yes, the man said. But not all who seek understanding are meant to wield it. Amelia looked at both paths. She glanced at Amenhotep. Then at the shards, still hovering, still vibrating. She could feel them now, not just as objects, but as voices. Each shard had a personality. A rhythm. The shard of memory, calm and constant, pulsing like a heartbeat. The shard of spirit, sharp and burning, like the edge of a blade. The shard of command, cold and calculating, always watching. What if we take neither path? She asked. Then the veil will remain sealed, the man said. And the thing waking beyond it will find another way through. Amelia felt a chill roll down her spine. There's something behind it, isn't there? The man nodded once. Something that was never meant to be known. Something that remembers the world before names. Amelia stepped onto the golden circle. It flared beneath her, warm and steady. Amenhotep stepped beside her. The shards descended. And the gate opened fully. No longer a swirl of shadow, but a vision. Of a vast city made of bone and starlight. Of a river flowing with memory. Of a temple with no roof, because its prayers reached skyward forever. That, Amelia whispered, is Aru? No, said the man. That is before. And then the light swallowed them whole. Chapter 11, The City Without Names. When the light faded, sound disappeared with it. There was no echo. No wind. No sense of weight. Just silence. Amelia blinked, and the world resolved around her. She was standing on a stone bridge suspended in air, no rails, no visible supports. Below, an endless chasm shimmered with flowing rivers of light. Not fire. Not water. But memories, entire lives, playing and replaying like fragments of forgotten dreams. Above, the sky was vast and black, yet pulsing with veins of starlight, like the inside of some enormous celestial organism. Beside her, Amenhotep stood still, lips parted. This is impossible. This is before, Amelia said quietly, repeating the cloaked man's final word. Ahead of them, a towering gate loomed, a wall without beginning or end, stretching in both directions as far as they could see. Etched into it were symbols that shifted as she looked, hieroglyphs, runes, equations, music, and shadows of languages that had never been spoken aloud. And in the center of the gate, there was a city. No name. No map. Just a sprawling metropolis of obsidian and ivory, its spires twisted like candle wax, temples without roofs, windows that faced inward, and roads paved with words rather than stone. The closer they drew, the more the city whispered. Not aloud. Inside. You are not of us. You carry what we buried. You seek to remember the thing we chose to forget. Amelia and Amenhotep stepped through the archway into the city. The temperature shifted instantly. It was cold, but not like ice, more like regret. Shadows moved along the edges of the alleys, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. Yet the feeling of being watched grew heavier with each step. This place, Amelia murmured. It's made of memory. Yes, Amenhotep said. But not ours. They passed a fountain shaped like a closed eye, water flowing upward into the air. They passed doorways that led into echoes. She glanced into one and saw a version of herself, younger, scared, holding a lantern in a library that no longer existed. Their reflections, she said. No, Amenhotep replied. Their temptations. The city is testing your will. Your truth. At the center of the city stood a temple without a name, its walls smooth, its dome open to the void above. Inside, a massive plinth, carved with a spiral and resting atop a staircase of light. Upon it, nothing. But Amelia knew instantly what belonged there. The shards, she whispered. As she reached into her satchel, the 3 fragments flared in recognition. They lifted themselves into the air, glowing softly, orbiting one another. Then the temple rumbled. And from the floor beneath them rose a statue, not of a god, not a guardian, but of a man. Life-sized. Dressed in layered robes, head bowed, hands outstretched. A plaque below the statue read, "He who first lied." Amelia froze. "Who is that?" Amenhotep's expression darkened. "I know this statue." "You do?" He hesitated. "This is Seteqr, the first priest to breach the veil. The one who forged the shards from his own soul." "So that cloaked figure was one of his remnants," Amenhotep said. "A sliver. This is what remains of the whole." The statue moved. Not subtly. Not metaphorically. It turned its head. Its mouth opened. And a voice, dry and ancient, spilled from it. "You bring me back together, but you do not know the cost." The shards trembled. The room darkened. The floor cracked. And from below the temple, a great roar echoed upward. "They're waking it," Amenhotep said. "Waking what?" Amelia asked. The statue's mouth spoke again. "The city remembers because I gave it memory." "You want truth? Then carry it all." The shards flared, too bright to look at. And then, without warning, they slammed into Amelia's chest. She collapsed. Searing pain shot through her body, not physical, but spiritual. Her mind flooded with visions. Priests carving runes into flesh. A gate held shut by living souls. A god without form, trapped by 3 names. Herself, standing at the mouth of something vast, and watching it breathe. She gasped and clutched the floor, trembling. Amenhotep held her as the glow dimmed. The shards were gone. But she could feel them, inside her. The statue spoke one last time. "You carry the lie now. And the truth it hides." And then it crumbled into dust. They were alone again. But not the same. Amenhotep helped her to her feet. "You okay?" "I don't know," she said, voice hoarse. "But I remember everything." "Then the city has given you its gift." "No," she said, eyes glowing faintly gold. "It's given me its burden." Above them, in the sky of memory, a single star blinked out. And the city whispered. "The veil cracks now. A god remembers its name." Chapter 12, The Breathless Throne. The city had fallen silent. Utterly, completely silent. Even the flowing memories beneath the obsidian streets had stilled, frozen like reflections in glass. The whispers had vanished. The shadows had retreated. The sky above was dark and vast and waiting. Dr. Amelia Carter stood at the edge of the temple's threshold, her heartbeat steady but distant, like an echo from another world. The shards no longer hovered. They were inside her now, woven into her spirit like ancient roots growing around a soul. She felt the hum of them, each one with a voice. Memory, record what is true. Spirit, feel what is hidden. Command, become what must be. Amenhotep placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "You should not be standing. The fusion would have undone any other mortal." "Maybe I'm not just mortal anymore," she said quietly. The path ahead had changed. Where once the city curved and twisted in impossible geometry, now it straightened, forming a single road that led into the darkness beyond. At the end of it rose a massive ziggurat, carved into the hollowed core of what looked like a collapsed star. It shimmered with neither light nor shadow, but with a deep presence, like something ancient was watching from within. At its peak was a single throne, carved from unyielding bone and veined with gold. It was impossibly still. The breathless throne, Amenhotep said. The last place the erased one sat before being torn apart. Seteqr's god, Amelia whispered. Or what was left of it, he replied. The shards were forged to seal it. To keep it from crossing the veil. Then why lead us back here? Amenhotep looked down the long path ahead. Because now, it's time to decide what becomes of it. They walked the path in silence. As they passed beneath the towering arches and memory-haunted towers, the city seemed to watch them, not as an enemy, but as a witness. When they reached the base of the ziggurat, the world felt thin. Like parchment about to tear. Each step upward pressed against something heavy, as if gravity itself questioned their right to ascend. The further they climbed, the harder it became to breathe. Amelia's vision blurred. Her muscles trembled. It's testing you, Amenhotep said. Every step forward, you must choose to be yourself. Or let it take you. It already knows me, Amelia said through gritted teeth. But I'm still choosing. At the summit, they entered a vast chamber open to the void above. The breathless throne stood in the center, surrounded by 7 obsidian monoliths, each inscribed with a single symbol: silence, memory, breath, flame, truth, void, and name. Amelia stepped forward. Her heartbeat synced with the throne. The shards flared inside her. The monoliths lit up, one by one, and the space between them shimmered, forming a spectral cage of glyphs and flame. Suddenly, the floor dropped away. And from below, something rose. It was not a creature. Not a god. But a form, tall, robed in shadow, face hidden behind a mask of mirrored gold. Its presence bent the air, making it hard to think, hard to breathe. You carry what was broken, it said. Its voice was not sound, but sensation, like grief and thunder had found words. You hold what was sealed. Amelia stood tall. And I remember why. The being stepped closer. Then you know you cannot keep it. The shards belong to me. No, she said, louder now. They belong to the world. You stole them. You turned memory into a weapon. You turned forgetting into power. The being's mask tilted. And what will you do with them? Bury me again? Become me? Amelia clenched her fists. The shards burned inside her. I'm not here to bury or become you. I'm here to end this. Then take the throne. Why? Because only one who sits may rewrite the law. Amenhotep stepped forward. Amelia. If you sit, you become the new seal. You are the veil. She turned to him. And if I don't? Then it breaks. The boundary collapses. The dead rise. The gods lose control. And the truth? The truth never stays buried. But sometimes, it must be held. She looked at the throne. Then at the being. Then at Amenhotep. And slowly, she sat. The moment she did, the monoliths flared, light and shadow forming a prism around her. The entity let out a soundless cry as the glyphs wrapped around its form, pulling it downward, folding it back into memory. The city trembled. Then, calmed. Amelia's eyes closed. Inside her, the shards fused into one, no longer separate, no longer speaking. Only being. She saw visions, cities undone by silence, gods swallowed by their own names, a world where truth walked freely, and one where it had to hide. And then. Stillness. Amenhotep stood before her. Amelia? She opened her eyes. They glowed with starlight. But her voice was her own. It's done. The throne holds. And you? I'm still here, she said. But I remember everything now. Even the parts that haven't happened yet. From far below, the city shifted. Not in fear, but in respect. And the stars above burned a little brighter. Chapter 13, The Echoing Return. The breathless city faded behind her. One moment, Amelia sat upon the throne, her mind echoing with forgotten truths and fractured visions. The next, she was standing back in the desert, knees in the sand, sun glaring overhead, lungs pulling in dry, familiar air. She was back. The ruined gateway of Amenthus stood behind her like a broken mirror, its edges cracked and silent. The shimmer of the veil was gone. Only sand and stone remained. She looked up to see Amenhotep, kneeling beside her, his hand on her shoulder, face etched with concern. "You've returned," he said softly. Amelia nodded slowly, but her voice took a moment to arrive. I brought it with me." "You brought all of it." The shards no longer pulsed in her satchel. They weren't in her hands. They were in her blood. She could feel it, memory whispering beneath her heartbeat, the pressure of knowledge humming in her bones. Every breath carried the weight of what had been, what had almost been, and what was still to come. "It's quiet," she said, eyes sweeping across the desert. "For now," Amenhotep said. "But the silence, it's watching." They packed quickly and returned to Luxor by nightfall, slipping through the back roads like fugitives from time itself. Back in their temporary base, the rest of the team, Tariq, Professor Dunmore, and Layla, looked up in shock as Amelia stepped through the door. "You're alive?" Tariq blurted, half in disbelief. "Barely," Amelia said with a faint smile. "But yes. I've changed." Dunmore stood, narrowing his eyes. "You're radiating energy. Every artifact in this room just flared." Layla, the team's linguistic genius, stepped forward and gently reached for Amelia's hand. The moment their skin touched, Layla gasped and stepped back. "You're carrying something enormous." "It's the veil," Amelia said. "Or a piece of it. Bound in shards that were never meant to be held together." "And yet here you are," Dunmore whispered. "The throne let me go," she said. "But it didn't close behind me." That night, Amelia couldn't sleep. Visions flickered behind her eyelids, cities reversed in time, temples that inhaled prayers, gods kneeling before a faceless child made of light and shadow. And voices. Always the voices. "We are not done. We have seen through you. What you carry is not sealed. It is listening." She woke with a start. The mirror in her room was fogged, though no moisture lingered. Across its surface, traced in invisible fingers, was a symbol. The eye. But not Horus's. Not Ra's. Something older. Something awake. She stepped outside to find Amenhotep waiting in the courtyard, eyes turned toward the stars. "You feel it too," she said. "Something followed you back," he murmured. "Or perhaps it was always here, waiting for you to bring the key." "The throne didn't destroy it," Amelia whispered. "It just drew its attention." He turned to her slowly. "Then we are no longer the seekers, Amelia. We're the ones being hunted." In the distance, across the rooftops of Luxor, something shifted, a flicker of shadow in the wrong direction, a shape too tall, too fluid, standing briefly beneath a half-broken moon. It did not move toward them. It simply stood. And watched.
Every story has an ending. But some mysteries live on. If you enjoyed this tale, don't let it fade into the shadows. Smash that like button and subscribe for more thrilling stories that will transport you beyond the veil of the ordinary. Subscribe to our channel and your name will appear at the beginning of our next video, where we will personally thank you for your subscribing. Tap the bell icon so you never miss a journey into the unknown. Share your thoughts in the comments. What twists did you see coming? And what secrets do you think still remain? Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and let the next story begin.